Hey, this is David, houseparents.com. Today we're going to show you how to assemble a pool table. We just picked this table up. It's a used table, and if you don't know anything about them, they might be a little daunting at first glance, but you're going to see the assembly of this is very straightforward. We're going to show you how to set it up, start to finish. Let's get started. First, let's take a look at the table itself. We went and picked this table up. I brought the whole frame down here and assembled it by myself. My son helped me bring these pieces of slate down. These are somewhere around 170 pounds each. This particular table is in Olhausen, Remington. I actually went out and looked for this type Olhausen table. They are really well constructed, have a great reputation. This table in particular has a 7/8 inch 3-piece slate with a 5/8 inch MDF on the back side of it. And the seams, we're going to go ahead and do beeswax seams, but we'll get to that in just a bit. Basically, the table just bolts together. When I picked it up, these two legs and the end stayed together, and we just simply unbolted the side panel right there. That side panel there, this side panel fits into a pocket. You can see that pocket right there. So basically, when I picked it up, I had the rails by themselves and the legs and ends by themselves. These are braces, and there's two of these, and they simply bolt right into their pocket right there. The table overall is about 800 pounds. The frame itself is all hardwood, but it is very manageable for one person to carry. After I bolted the whole table together and tightened everything, I went from this corner, measured from this corner to its opposite corner, and then from this corner to its other corner before I put the slate on. So I did a diagonal measurement. When those diagonals are the exact same measurement, then your table is square. Once I got all the bolts tightened in the frame, I went and measured that diagonal, and it set up perfectly square. They're already done that way at the factory. The tables are pre-assembled before they're ever sent out, and they make sure that everything is true. I had these two bolts, so 4 bolts on this side, 4 bolts on that side, and then 2 bolts for each of these two pieces, and that's it. It assembles really easy, and not something at all to be afraid of. Now the slate, that's going to be a little bit of a different deal because they're heavy, but also they need to be on completely flat and then level. Here's some of the tools I've got. I'll need the torch for the beeswax later, drill bits, different wrenches for assembly. I've got some straight edges, right? There's a couple of straight edge and a level. When I picked up the table, these are the screws, the bolts for the rails themselves. These are the screws that will go into these holes right here to secure the slate to the frame. And these are all the extra pieces of various thicknesses of shims. And we'll need all different kinds to get it just right. It's also important before you put the slate on the table to put the frame square in the room, and then give yourself enough room for the pool sticks to play. Full-size pool sticks are 58 inches. This right here is going to be our only short spot. This is about 55 inches to this corner. We also have 52-inch pool cues just to accommodate. Now, if you actually need to go dead center to this corner. Once you got your pool table set, you can go ahead and put your slate on the table. These can be managed by one person. To get an idea, I've already checked this with the level, but to get an idea visually of what we're starting with, I can just put a pool ball on the slate, and you can see where it's low is where the ball's rolling to. I can go this side right here. And so that side and that end of the table is low. All of these pieces are going to this end of the table. this one's leaning, this one's a little bit this way. And I can flash a light under this straight edge and I can see the straight edge touches here and it touches there, but there's light that comes under the edge of the straight edge. So that's why these are not yet flat. But this is just to show you how each of these pieces need to be individually leveled. And so now this one, again, the table's still going this way, but this piece is leaning this way. So we'll get all that flattened out. We're going to start with the middle piece and make sure this is centered on the table. All right, so starting with the center piece, we're trying to get the same measurement on the table all the way around. And once we can get that centered, then all the other pieces should line up just right, because the frame itself is square. So now we're just going to start those screws. Now if your table hasn't, we already have holes underneath these. If your table is brand new, then those need to get drilled before you put the screw in so you don't split any wood underneath. And we're just gonna start the holes because we still have a lot of leveling and flattening work to do. And there you can see you got half the rail, half the support rails. The middle support rail has the slate on it on this side and half on this side. And so the seam will share that rail right there. All right, now we can take each of these end pieces and line them up with the middle piece. Make sure it's dead smooth on the sides. And we'll bring this one in. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and check level on the table overall, and then we'll start flattening. We know that this corner is the highest corner already. And so now to get that bubble to line up right, we got to come up on the right-hand side here just a little bit to get that to be level. So everything's gonna come off of that corner, and then we're gonna lift this end of the table up. We brought in the trusty car jack, and we really just need to lift this up like 1/8 of an inch, but not much at all. Okay, now we'll go look at our level here, just a tad more. And we're just really moving this ever so slightly. And that is dead center. Well, the level says level. You see that it is definitely not flat. There's a big problem right there. So this is what we have to deal with. And so we're just gonna have to shim that end of the table there underneath this piece of slate so that we can lose that light. See, on this side it's real flat, but the further you go, the more light you see. Okay, so you can still on the left see this is flat on this side, on the right, but still now you got a little bit of light there till it touches over here in the middle. So we're gonna just come up just a little, just a hair on this one. Back the screw out. Just the smallest little bit. Same thing on this one. You can see the light coming under the ruler there from this side to the middle of this where it's touching. So this needs to come up just a tad to close out that light. Something like this, a metal straight edge, is invaluable to making sure that on its edge here there's no light going under that, so you can get a completely flat surface, and then a level. And if you have a buddy who has a machinist level, they're super accurate, but these bubble levels are good to within a ½ millimeter. So, you know, for residential play, that'll do. All right, so I'm just going to clean the surface. Just use some isopropyl alcohol. Kind of just wipe it down. What we're using on these seams is beeswax. This is 1 ounce. You can melt the wax in a aluminum pan if you wanted to, but I'm used to using these, so we'll just go as is with this. Just let it drip on there for now. All right, so we just dripped the wax on there, and that's all it's got to do is fill in that seam. Then we're going to scrape the rest off. And then we hit those 2 screw holes on either side of the seam, on either side of the pieces of slate there, and fill those in. We may have to come back and hit those again. We'll see how it dries. We got a new drywall blade. I want something 100% clean, so we'll use that in just a few minutes. We'll let that set up for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Just make sure it's good and dry, and then we'll come back and scrape it off. All right, so now we'll just go at this wax here at an angle. I can see a couple places where it didn't quite fill, so I'm just going to go back and make sure it's all good. Now, some people use Bondo, and Bondo is a great tool, except that it's stronger. It makes a stronger bond than the slate, so you can chip your slate if you ever take it apart again if you don't score it first. So there's pros and cons to every method, but wax is pretty forgiving. Beeswax. Okay, let's see if we can put it on here. Okay, put it on there, we're good.
Wait, mine's a little
short, eh? well, what's going to happen is it's going to get stretched. All right, we're reusing the old felt because we have an 8-year-old who's wanting to learn how to play pool, and then after the learning curve is over, we'll refelt the table, which isn't a real big deal because the rails come off fairly easily. Right, so for this part we're going to need a staple gun and a few staples. And because this is it's a used cloth, we're going to go ahead and line up these holes that already exist. And then there's going to be a lot of stretch on this. So we're going to actually go a little bit past the hole because it's going to stretch back. This will go right into the MDF at the bottom. And then we're going to come over here and stretch this one, find our hole, the bolt holes for the cloth itself. And then staples go every 6 inches into the side of the MDF backer. Right, that side's good. Now we're going this side. Same thing, repeat. The cloth looks like it's about 2 inches short, but that's how much stretch there's going to be in it. So again, because we have our holes already lined up in this cloth, all we got to do is worry about lining that up, and everything else will be right. I'm going on either side of my initial staple. Okay, now come over to the corner here. And same thing, we want a lot of stretch. Pull this over to this hole. Make sure it lines up good. All right, now we go to the side pockets. And even though this fabric is a little worn out, it'll be a great training fabric. These all have the triangular tabs already cut, so we're going to fold these under and staple from underneath rather than at the side. When they're first mounted, they get stapled to the side, and then these are cut. Since they're cut already, we're just going to fold under and staple. And so long as you keep a good stretch going, this is really not that difficult a task. Alright, now the last step is put the rails on. I'm going to start with the ends, do a horseshoe. Start with this down at this end. We're cutting holes in the fabric for the bolts to go through these holes in the felt. By cutting holes in there rather than just slits, it keeps the fabric from causing the bolts to be misthreaded because the fabric's in the way. These bolts will secure the rails from underneath, and then there's these pegs on the ends of the end rails which will go into this side piece, like so. And then this bolt goes right into that and into the bottom of the peg. So it's going like that up into this peg right here. All right, so now that we've got this horseshoe end done, I'm just going to flip it over like so. And now we'll secure them from underneath. Goes into that hole, like so. And now we can go ahead and secure all the sides from underneath with the remaining bolts. All right. Well, there you go. We finished it all. It went together really well, including the repurposing of the old felt. So this will be a good learning surface. The biggest challenge is getting that slate nice and flat and level. And once you do that, everything else is easy. If you get anything out of this video, give us a thumbs up. We appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.